If you want to spend your evenings a little more calmly and you're curious about why life used to feel different in the past, you can subscribe to the channel. The stories told here are meant to be listened to without rushing. Now, let's begin with a very simple question that most people never really stop to think about. Why did evenings feel longer years ago? The hours were the same. The sun set in the same way. But something was different. So what was it? People felt this for years, yet very few ever stopped to think about it. Because some changes don't happen with noise, but with silence. And the things that happen quietly are always the last to be noticed. Were evenings truly longer back then, or were we simply experiencing time differently? The answer to this question is much deeper than we might expect. Back then, evening was not the end of the day, it was the moment when the day began to slow down. When people came home from work, they didn't open a to-do list. Screens didn't light up. Notifications didn't arrive. Evening was not an empty gap that needed to be filled quickly, but a stretch of time meant to be lived in. As daylight faded, life naturally slowed down with it. Because there was nothing pushing it to speed up. People would sit at the table, and after finishing their meal, they wouldn't get up right away. Conversations would stretch on. People would socialize, and silences did not feel uncomfortable. Because silence was not emptiness, it was rest. That's why evenings felt long. Because time wasn't being divided. No one was trying to be in 3 places at once. While doing one thing, they weren't thinking about another. In the past, we knew how to enjoy each moment. Today, what we call evening is actually lived like just another part of the day. The pace of daytime spills into the evening. Back then, evening was different from daytime. Its rules and its rhythm were different. People did fewer things in the evenings, but they felt more. Because attention was scattered. Time wasn't broken into small pieces. During an entire evening, a single thing could be done. That's why an hour didn't disappear the way it does today. Evening had its own weight. It had meaning. People would sit within that weight, think, and sometimes simply look. So when did this change? When did evenings begin to speed up? When did they become the most exhausting part of the day? And by the time we noticed this change, had we already passed a point of no return? Because maybe the reason evenings feel shorter isn't the hours themselves, but how we choose to fill them. So why did evenings feel not only slower, but also fuller? Because back then, time was not just something that was measured, it was something that was shared. Now, every movement we make continues with haste, with the feeling that we are late for something. People did not see evening as a time that needed to be finished. Evening had a separate identity from the rest of the day. The biggest reason for this was that life had natural boundaries. When the day ended, the things that could be done naturally came to an end as well. As the light faded, the options also decreased. And this was not a lack, but a relief. Because as choices decreased, the mind was able to rest. People did not feel the need to constantly keep themselves busy in the evenings. Being idle was not a problem. On the contrary, emptiness was a natural part of life. In those years, the silence of the evening did not mean that something was missing. Silence was a space where the tiredness of the day dissolved. People would sit in the same room, sometimes talking, sometimes not. But this state of being together was enough. Because attention was not fragmented. Another reason evenings felt long was the low level of expectations. No one expected a miracle from the evening. Plans were not made just to have fun, and every moment did not need to be productive. For this reason, evening did not create mental pressure. Time expanded because there was no expectation squeezing it. Today, however, evening has become the most mentally crowded part of the day for most people. Unfinished tasks, missed opportunities, conversations that never happened all pile up in the evening hours. The mind only confronts in the evening the thoughts it avoided throughout the day. This makes the evening feel heavier, but at the same time faster. Because time that exhausts the mind feels short. In the past, people took the rhythm of the day from the outside world. The darkening of the sky was a signal. The reduction of sounds was a boundary. Today, these boundaries have largely disappeared. The line between day and evening has been erased. As this line faded, the evening's own structure was lost as well. Evenings did not become shorter, they were actually divided. Too many things were tried to be fit into the same block of time. And the more pieces the human mind divides a period of time into, the faster that time passes. Perhaps the times when evenings felt long were not the times when life was easier. But they were the times when life was simpler. Simplicity stretches time. Complexity dissolves it. That is why evenings in the past were wider not in hours, but in feeling. So have we completely lost this simple rhythm? Or do we still, on some evenings, when we sit doing nothing at all, feel that old sense of length return, even if only for a brief moment? Because perhaps for evenings to become long again, what we need to change is not the calendars, but our expectations. So how did this simple rhythm of evenings slowly disappear? It didn't happen overnight. No one woke up one morning and said, "From now on, evenings will be short." The change began with small habits. First, the number of things that could be done in the evening increased. Then those things began to feel as if they were necessary. Life, which used to naturally come to a stop when the day ended, learned not to stop anymore. The lights grew dim, but the mind did not. Because evening became a time not for rest, but for catching up. Everything that couldn't be completed during the day was carried into the evening. Conversations were postponed, thoughts were suppressed, emotions were put on hold. When evening came, they all appeared at once. That is why evenings began to feel both exhausting and fast. When the human mind places too much weight on a single stretch of time, it cannot carry it. And when it cannot carry it, it speeds it up. In the past, evenings had boundaries. What could be done? It was clear. What could not be done was also clear. These boundaries did not restrict people, on the contrary, they brought relief. Because you didn't have to make choices. Today, however, evening has turned into a limitless space. Because everything is possible, nothing can be fully done. This made evenings feel fragmented, restless, and short. People no longer truly live their evenings. They consume them. While watching something, they think about something else. While listening, they write replies. While sitting, they prepare for the next day. Time itself is still there, but what we feel is constantly diminishing. In the past, evenings were the moments when life took a breath. The speed of the day unraveled as evening arrived. Now, the speed of the day is squeezed into the evening. Perhaps the problem is not that evenings have changed. Perhaps the problem is what we expect from evening. Because as long as we continue to expect productivity, speed, and results from evening, just as we do from daytime, it will not give us a sense of spaciousness. Evenings only grow long when expectations decrease. When a person expects nothing from themselves, time begins to reveal itself. So can we slow evenings down again? Without changing life from the beginning, without turning back the clock, simply by changing what we expect from evening. Can we invite that old sense of length back once more? Or will this feeling remain only as a memory that visits from time to time and then disappears? So within all of this change, have evenings completely slipped out of our hands? Not really. Because evenings are still there. What has changed is how we approach them. In the past, evening arrived as a natural result of the day. Now, it is often lived as an extension of the day itself. But when you look closely, some evenings can still feel the way they once did. When no plans are made. When there is no need to rush to meet anyone. When one simply sits. In those moments, time begins to slow again. Because what determines the speed of time is not the clock, but expectations. When a person expects nothing from the evening begins to reveal itself. In the past, people did not do this consciously. It was not a method. Life itself was simply that way. Today, experiencing the same feeling requires a conscious choice. Not filling everything. Not trying to make every moment productive. Seeing the evening not as an empty gap, but as a pause. The human mind likes pauses. Constant movement exhausts it. But stopping, quietly and without effort, restores it. This was one of the reasons evenings used to feel long. No one tried to manage the evening. The evening flowed on its own. Now, we try to control it. What to watch, what to do, what to catch up on. As control increases, time narrows. Perhaps the solution is not trying to reclaim the evening. Perhaps it is letting it go. Asking nothing from it. Simply allowing it to arrive. Because evenings grow long when they are free of demands. When a person steps back, time steps forward. And sometimes, in those brief moments spent sitting and doing nothing, that old sense of long evenings from the past quietly appears again. It may last only a short while. But it is enough. Because it reminds us of something important: time did not disappear. We only changed our relationship with it. So is it possible to rebuild that relationship? Can we make the quietest hours of the day feel like they belong to us again? Or will evenings remain nothing more than a memory we occasionally open the door to and glance inside? In the final part, we will move closer to answering that question. So what if evenings never truly became shorter? What if the only thing that changed was how much we asked of them? In the past, evening was allowed to be incomplete. It didn't need to deliver results. It didn't need to entertain or impress. It simply existed as a gentle landing place at the end of the day. And because it wasn't demanded to be more, it felt wider, slower, and easier to stay inside. Today, evenings are often expected to repair everything the day couldn't finish. We ask them to fix our exhaustion, to catch us up, to make us feel accomplished, and somehow still allow us to rest. That is a heavy weight for a quiet part of the day to carry. Perhaps the reason evenings once felt longer is not because life was simpler, but because expectations were lighter. When nothing was required from the evening, it had space to unfold on its own. And maybe that space is still there. Not waiting to be found, but waiting to be allowed. Even now, there are moments when the evening slows down again. A chair by a window. A room with the lights dimmed. A few minutes with no plan attached to them. In those moments, time doesn't rush. It settles. And for a brief while, evenings feel the way they used to, not because the world changed, but because we stepped back. So perhaps the question isn't how to bring long evenings back. Perhaps it's how to stop asking them to be short. If we allow the evening to be quiet, unproductive, and unfinished, it may give us exactly what it always did: rest, presence, and a sense of length that can't be measured by clocks. Before we end tonight, take a moment to think about this. When was the last time you truly let an evening be an evening? No goals. No pressure. Just time passing gently. If this story resonated with you, I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments. What do evenings feel like in your life now? And for our next quiet night together, what would you like to hear about? A forgotten habit? A hidden rule of daily life? Or another reflection like this one? Let me know below. And until next time, thank you for listening, and for sharing this quiet moment with me.